Hello. In this video, I would like to describe the M3 problem I'm having with my new and first CNC machine. It is a CNC plasma cutter with the PoKeys controller and Mach4 software. After starting M3 command that activates the THC cutting start process, only sometimes the Z-axis stops as soon as the torch tip touch the sheet and the probing contact is active. The following error message appears. The error message says, can't transition from probing to running, and the probing process is stopped. The next video shows the problem with the M3 command. The machine is not yet completed, you see. The plasma cutting head is still a wooden stick, you see on the right hand. But nevertheless, the probing process should run completely. For the test, I wrote a short G-code. It starts with an M3 command. If this passes correctly, the Z-axis moves up 30 mm and another M3 command is started. This repeats 5 times. Let's see what happened. The stick moves up to 30 mm, M3, and now the error is there. Can't transition from probing to running. Okay, next try, reset, moves up, M3 command, error. Same message, can't transition from probing to running. Okay, third try, nothing changed in the configuration. Moves up, M3, and yes, it works. It makes the start completely. Next try, following the G-code. Yes, it works again. Next try, following the G-code. Up, the error is there again. Can't transition from probing to running. Okay, I would like to give you a small overview of the machine. As you can see, it is a 4-axis gantry machine with a working area of approximately 1.25 meters by 1.25 meters. There is one drive for the X-axis mounted behind the gantry and 2 drives for the Y-axis that are operated in parallel. The machine has 2 Z-axis. One axis is for a router, which will be mounted in the future, and one axis is for the plasma torch. The torch is mounted on a floating head. The idea behind this is that you can machine wooden boards or sheet metal in different working areas of the machine without a lot of setup work. It should be also possible to mill aluminium later on. As you can see, the plasma cutting head is now installed, but the working table is not yet finished. The next video shows how the floating head works. When the tip of the torch hits the plate, the Z-axis moves a short distance further, which activates the micro switch. This interrupts the contact and the probing signal is active. Each axis is mounted via a spindle with 5 mm pitch, which is directly driven by a single motor. These are the directions of movement of the individual axes, of the X and the Y axis, and of the 2 Z axis. Each axis is driven by a JMC IHSV 57 servo motor. Certainly, these would be excessive for a pure plasma CNC machine, but since I also want to use the machine for routing, I decided to use these motors. I have the 180 watt 604 series motors with the current JMC firmware. The microstep setup is at 3200 pulses per revolution. This is the control panel. The Mach4 software runs on a Windows 10 laptop with the Intel Celeron CPU at 1.86 GHz and a 4 gigabit RAM memory. As CNC controller, I use a PoKeys 57 CNC board in version 1.6, which is connected to the laptop via USB. You also see the versions of the software from the firmware and the Mach4 plugin that I used during the tests. At the bottom of the control panel, there are the 3 power supplies units for the motors. I use one unit for Y1 and Z1 axis, one unit for Y2 and Z2 axis, and one unit for the X axis. What I have tried so far. I changed the wiring to the probe switch. So I connected the micro switch directly to the CNC control board, but no changes. I changed the type of communication between laptop and motor controller from USB to Ethernet, but no changes. I changed the power supply to use a single power supply for the Z2 plasma axis, but no changes. Then I changed some parameters from the JMC servo motor at the Z2 plasma axis. And I changed the parameter of the auto tuning between 10 and 18. And I achieved that the best results are with the parameter 15, but also no changes. And at least I changed the old laptop with the 1.86 gigahertz CPU to a newer one, which got a faster CPU with 2.9 gigahertz, and this got a much better result because it was possible to pass through the whole test G code. All 5 M3 moves could be done, but after a few attempts the error popped up again. So what do you think could be the reason for this error? I'm grateful for any help. So please post your ideas in the comments or visit the forum posts I've linked below. So, und wie ihr auch schon sicherlich bemerkt habt, ist Englisch nicht meine Muttersprache. Also gerne könnt ihr mir auch auf Deutsch antworten. Vielen, vielen, vielen Dank.